Web design has changed a dramatic amount in the last 10 to 15 years. And when you look at web development, you understand the process has changed so much. It makes a lot more sense to see that clients have a perspective upon web development that doesn't really match up because they're not familiar with all these changes. They're looking at web development as though the process they're going to go through today is the one they went through 10 years ago or more. Okay. A lot of clients do not get websites built, every couple of years. They may have a site built every 5 years or even every 10 years. Many times the people that we encounter in this industry, are individuals that haven't had a site built in a long time, or, they may have acquired a business that already had a site. Somebody else at the company may have handled it. They're not familiar. Many times business owners, decision makers are not familiar with the process. And so their perspective was shaped by the way that it was in the past. And that's why it's important to sometimes do a quick retrospective upon what development was like 15 plus years ago compared to today. In the past, the way that we developed sites was a very disjointed, disconnected process. You would typically sit down with a client, literally with a pencil and paper, storyboard out the website. Right? This is going to be page 1. This is page 2. This is page 3, home, about, contact us, etc. You'd storyboard it. Then you'd have a designer, do mock-ups, for example, based on that storyboard. The programmer would, go to work after that. And you would go through this process that was incredibly clunky. Now, CMS technology and themes improved upon that. However, even with themes, it was a process where the themes were incredibly stock and canned, and getting a lot of modifications done to them wasn't possible. So a lot of your clients are scared of whenever you mention the word theme because they think they're going to be forced to get a website that looks stock and junky, just a bad looking site. Of course, that's not the case today. I mean, today we take a theme and we just base upon it, build whatever we want. But their perspective is back then. Back in the old days when we wanted to do graphic design work, I mean, it was, I'm talking prior to broadband, graphic design work, you'd literally take photographs, right, from your client or whatever, and they were literally like 35 millimeter film photographs, scan them, and then, have them burnt like at a Kinko's to a CD, right, and then sent by mail to whoever was doing whatever. It was a really clunky process. And it's shocking to me, actually, that it's still in the minds of so many clients, but it is. A lot of them, when you talk about developing them a website, they think in terms of a big, lengthy nightmare process. And the other thing is that many of them have been scammed in the past. A very common scam, and it's still done today, but it was very common back then, was to get somebody to start development, right? You get them, say, a couple $1,000s, into the process. And then you tell them that the price went up, right? Okay, well, I know I said at the beginning it was going to be 3,000. Well, it's actually going to be more like 6. And you get them in to where they've already invested so much that they're willing to go further than they would have originally. And a lot of people have been scammed in this way. So they're skeptical of development from that perspective too. You have to overall keep in mind the process that your clients have been through is shaping their perspective upon going through this process again. Reassuring your clients that the process today is totally different, and literally sitting and explaining to them how it's different, why it's different, how files get transferred, how they're going to look at mock-ups, how edits happen, how theme development is not what it was in the past. Going through all this stuff is important because at the root of a lot of objections to web development is really fear. It's fear of process. It's thinking that, the process is going to be much more difficult than it really is. And if you can remove that fear, if you can address it in the sales process and you can make your clients feel as though, hey, this is not going to be such a difficult process, you'll land a lot more clients. You'll get people to take action more because they won't be afraid, right? It's pretty straightforward when you think about it. However, it's something that is worth talking about, and it was worth doing this video because I think a lot of people don't really have a rounded idea of what they're up against when they hear certain objections. You hear objections, like, oh, I don't have the time to do this. You may be thinking they don't have the time to spend 5 minutes, looking at a draft. And they may be thinking they don't have time to sit down for 2 hours and draw up a sketch. Okay, so if you can, explain to them, it's very important to explain in conversation what you mean, completely and thoroughly, so that your clients are not, your prospects become clients, right? They're not afraid. That's pretty much it. It's important that you go over this, and it's important that you go over this with your salespeople as well, if you have salespeople at your agency. And feel free to refer them to this video. This is just a quick overview of something that, I could go very in depth. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a more in-depth retrospective upon, web development in the past versus today. I'd be happy to do a video like that. Hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next vid.